It's not like Indian convention schools only have commerce, humanities, and sciences. But in this school, we can shuffle and choose, right? Like I have physics and psychology together, along with other subjects.
Right. So you choose. So how many electives do you do? Do you go to high school or do you go to secondary school? Or?
So it's high school. It's senior. It's our senior class. In fact, it's like the last 5 years of our schooling.
Thank you so much. This is just the informal getting to know each other before we get on to today's proceedings. And when I actually had a chance to come here and talk about the minister's visit, there were more than a lot of similarities between this institution and Queensland that it was just, needless to say, a compelling reason to actually kick off your visit here today in this part. Also importantly, having worked with the education institutions here for so many years, we're seeing how this part of India for its new age institutions is developing, creating new age learners as well, and schools like this are trying to innovate along with leaders like Alcon, who've kind of from your short introduction on the school because it's the first time as well. And we have Kitesh, who is leading the Trade and Investment Curriculum Mission here in India. And Kitesh will also do a round of introduction of his team, so you have an understanding of what each of them do. And if you want to introduce your school.
So the Shiv Nadar schools were started in 2012. They come under the wider umbrella of the Shiv Nadar Foundation. Shiv Nadar Foundation, as the name says, our trustee is Mr. Shiv Nadar, who is the founder for HCL. It's Hindustan Computer Limited, but everybody knows it as HCL. And that's a very well-known company across the globe. And the Shiv Nadar Foundation has 5 or 6 initiatives under it. One of them being the Shiv Nadar schools, which is, I think, the youngest. It started in 2012. They have other initiatives like the Shiv Nadar University. They've got engineering college in Chennai. They have the Vidya Gyan schools, which are the schools for the poor, for the rural poor, because they are totally free schools which offer residential accommodation as well as education from year 6 to year 12. And they also help them in placements and sometimes finance their future education also at university. Many of them have got a lot of scholarships across the world in American universities and British universities as well. However, the Shiv Nadar schools are very young, and our first year 12 is going to pass out next year. So some of them joined us in 2013 and some of them a little later. So we are now like in a full K-12 school, and while academic excellence is important to us, we also want our children to be future ready. So hence we look forward to all these opportunities across. We have a very strong career placement and career counseling center which is run by Tanushree Sinha, and I think this whole visit was because of the connect between Kala and Tanushree.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And we are 3 schools, one here in Gurugram, one in Noida, one in Faridabad, and they are on the outskirts of Delhi, not inside Delhi as yet, but 3 schools, and we plan to open a lot more. Ms. Leena Prajit is the director of all the Shiv Nadar schools.
Mm-hmm.
We also have CEO Colonel Gopal Karunakar, who is not able to come here today, and our trustee who's laid down with the virus, who's not well.
Oh, no.
So I think they both are unable to come. Otherwise, in school, I've got head of administration, which is Captain Gurli, ex-captain from the army, and we have Sunena there in the blue sari. She is our parent partnership officer.
That's good.
So parents, I think, across the world in schools are spend more time on WhatsApp than anything else. So we do have helicopter parenting.
Oh, yes.
One of the problems across the globe all schools are facing. So she really absolutely. So she meets with them, see what the issues are, what ideas there are. She connects the heads to whatever the parent issues. So that's a little bit about the school, and I would ask the ma'am also to tell something about the foundation.
I think she said everything, so we won't keep you long. The only thing is one little bit there for this is the philanthropic wing of the foundation. SC are the money earners, and we are the philanthropic, because education, as you know, in India is supposed to be not for profit. And there's just the Nadar Museum of Art, which is run by Mrs. Nadar, and she, of course, at the Commonwealth Games, I think she won the second prize, the first prize in bridge. She was
They won gold.
the gold. So there's a huge connect as we're a part of the Commonwealth. So that's all about the school, and I'm sure. And you said something, Minister, that of course you're looking at making connects. And what better way than to begin at schools?
Absolutely.
Because once you have exchange programs and children go and see the school, see the place, they get excited and they really want to study and go on for further studies and stay there. Because while other parts of the world are not aggressive, but they're assertive in their marketing. I won't use aggressive, and they have a presence. Australia being down under and a little laid back, pardon my saying so.
Yeah.
I think that they haven't made their presence so felt as much as they should, considering the quality of education that you have. Your institutes of higher learning, whether it's Queensland Institute of Technology, or whether it's Melbourne, Monash, Australian National University. You've got fantastic universities with cutting-edge research. But I don't think students are really aware of it in this part of the world as much as they should be. So if we have exchange programs like the ones we have to bring minds and hearts together, I'm sure
Absolutely.
we have a wonderful future ahead.
Yeah.
Now over to your team.
Thank you for having us here. We would have loved to enjoy a little longer lunch, but we had to be here on time. My name is Geetesh. I'm based out of Bangalore. I'm the Commissioner for the Government's Trade and Investment Arm. We are very honored to have Honourable Kate Jones with us today. She represents, of course, the future portfolios of Raghav and Mehak already. So tourism, innovation, games, Commonwealth Games, and also the Ministerial Cabinet for Education. She has been a Minister of Education in the past. We have Damien, who is our Director General for the similar portfolios. Shannon has just joined us as Executive Director of Study Queensland. Jacinta represents Education Queensland. We have Matt, who is the Chief of Staff of the Minister, and Hema, who looks after education here. So Leena ma'am, Monica ma'am, of course, I'll go into that. Kala, Sina ma'am, Mr. Pandey, Gaurav, Ronak, Captain Gurmeet and Sunena, and of course Yasman, our colleague, who's having us here. And I'm so thank you.
We'll also come. You invited them, we'll also come. I've already got a
partnership with UQ with them, and they wanted to time it with the cricket. So, but as a tourism minister, I'm in charge of the tickets to the cricket too. So I can get you good tickets. And thank you so much for welcoming me to your lovely school, and it's wonderful to see such a beautiful young school. We're in a stage of growth in Queensland too. So as a great joy of being Minister for Education is opening a lot of new schools. So to walk in here, it's very nice to be back in an education institute with the educators and with the students too, because they are our future, and for all of our children, whether they're growing up here or in Queensland, that global focus and that new economy focus is what's going to give our children the edge and the opportunity. And so any collaborations or partnerships we can have with either the foundation or with the schools would be very keen to pursue. The partnership that we did this morning at the Institute was with UQ, and actually having for the first time ever a jointly badged degree from both the Institute and UQ, and when they study 3 years either in India or 3 years of their PhD in Queensland and do the year in the alternative space. And for me, that's sort of symbolic of the future of education, that the more global opportunities we can give our young people, then the more chance they're going to have to, as you say, participate in the economy and also, make better decisions for all of us. So it's a very exciting time, I think. Yeah, so it's really wonderful to be here, and hopefully I get a chance to have a look around the school.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we've got students from the school waiting to meet you.
Oh, okay, lovely.
So I just thought after the formal, if you're so hungry, there's definitely loads of sandwiches and stuff to go for everybody to eat. And if we want, we could just go up and meet the students.
Yeah, I'd love to meet Hi students, how are we all? Thanks for coming. Where are the Australian students? Yeah, that's it, Karen. Hi, I recognize. How are you all? Right, thank you. Hey, how are you doing? I'd like to get a photo. Yeah. Thank you so much. Please stand. to Townsville earlier, some of the students from Shiv Nadar. Yeah. What, for the Shiv Nadar students, what did you experience in Queensland that you didn't expect, that was different to what you thought?
We saw a lot of cultural diversity between the different communities that stay in Townsville, and I think we had a lot of fun at Magnetic Island.
Oh yeah, Maggie Island, yeah. Well, I'm actually I was the education minister in Queensland, so some of the educators who know me from that time. And but I had to deliver a small event in Queensland this year, which was, does anyone know, an event that India got 40 medals, I think, 40, they did very well at the Commonwealth Games. We had the Commonwealth Games in Queensland this year, so Gold Coast, yes. So I was the minister responsible for that, and I'm also the minister for tourism. So it makes me very happy to hear that you went to Magnetic Island, because it's a beautiful destination in Queensland. Do you think so one of the things that I'm here for as the minister from Queensland is I'm the innovation minister as well. So we've been meeting with some of the universities here about how we can have some better partnerships to grow the new economy and the new jobs. I guess the other thing from our perspective is also about how it is that we open up that global understanding of different cultures, of different people, because the world is becoming, they often say it's shrinking, even though there's many more of us, the opportunities are truly global for your generation. How do you think a program like this is helping you? What about the Kerwin High students who have just arrived in India? I bet you when you were in primary school you never thought you'd be in India, seeing a school like that. What's that been like for you? My opening?
Well, even in the field of IT, there's a big focus around collaboration, and I think collaboration between Australia and India is definitely an amazing thing, and it's great to see people from India come to Australia and experience what it's like, and they're going to have a new interesting coming to study in Australia and bringing their viewpoints, and I think that's very important.
Absolutely, and I think the other opportunity, which probably hasn't happened at scale yet either, is also for Australian students to come and study in Indian institutions as well, particularly in IT and technology, where they are world leading. And I think economies where we are creating those partnerships and those friendships, which will hopefully you will maintain from this, because you can, unlike amazing youth that certainly we never had when we were at school. So do you think for either student from either school, would you study tertiary overseas now? Is this something that would open up your eyes to doing that?
For sure.
Yeah. And so what are the things, what's the program like for this week? So for the Kerwin High students that are studying here this week, what's going to happen this week at school? Do the hydrogen tool want to talk about this?
I'm pretty sure we're learning, we're interacting in some of the classes. So this morning we had some IT classes and we also did some art, so we made stencils.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And are you coming to school every day this week? Is that part of the
Yes.
version?
Tomorrow we have a tour of Delhi.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
We thought we'll get the Delhi tour in on a weekday when it's not so crowded.
Yes, yeah. No, well, they said I was very lucky on Sunday, but that's okay. One day still won't you? Do you think this is something, I'm interested in your view on this, particularly for the Indian students that came to Queensland, do you think this is a program that we should be doing on a larger scale, in your experience? Yeah. What would, and back to that original question, does anyone else want to share what they were sort of, some of the things that they got? Since you've gone to Queensland and come back here, what are some of the things that you've shared with your colleagues or your peers back here at your school? You didn't sound like you liked Vegemite very much. They did like it, no, you didn't. No, you liked it. Oh, did you? Yeah. You was nice?
Yeah, I like the accent.
You like the accent? Yeah. We often get told that we speak too fast, so I'm going to slow down. Yeah, maybe not in the council, I'm just joking. Yeah, that's a joke between them. And I should say for the council who were joking that we've got Jonathan Thurston on our tourism board now. So it's tough. Someone's got to do it. He's our #1 football player. As in rugby league. Did you see any league games? No. Yeah. That's a unique taste. What I was going to ask was, I've never been to a Shiv Nadar school before. Can you tell me what's unique about your school and why your parents and you chose to come to this school, given it is a new school? You know, there's only 3 schools, and I think this one, some of you would be the second year, the second cohort since it opened. Can you tell me what's unique or what you love about your school?
Well, our school, it maintains a balance. You know, so we have academics on one side, but we also have extracurriculars. So my previous school only focused on academics, and we didn't really do much of extracurriculars, which I feel was not that, good, because, we have to sort of focus on holistic or all-rounder development. So this school did focus on extracurriculars as well, which was the main reason why I chose this, because there was this very good balance between the two.
Yes. And I've heard that from the leadership here, that that's one of the focuses, and I think that's something that you would have seen is in common with Queensland schools. So we have very much embedded in our curriculum, in our philosophy, that yes, you have to be academic and that has to be a focus, but we know that you also have to be citizens of the world, and you need to be well balanced in your approach to your health, to your well-being. And I heard that you're also learning musical instruments here. Yeah, the opportunity. Yeah. Did you listen to the Cohen band? They're very, very good. One of the best in Queensland, aren't you? Did you? Yeah, one. Yeah. Cohen High has got a very, very good school band. Whereas something we're saying in Queensland, which is actually unique to Queensland compared to other parts of Australia, is actually every child in Queensland does get the opportunity to learn an instrument, even in public education. It's something that we value, because learning music is very much like, what's another skill that we want young people to have today? Coding. It's actually very similar to coding. So there's a lot of academic studies that show that students that do well in music actually do very well in mathematics and programming, because it's a very similar part of the brain. And so what do you get for lunch when you're here? Do you have a lunch hall, or is it, do you have to bring your own lunch? What's the... So what did you eat for lunch today?
Well, we had
Maybe my sandwiches.
we had like lentils. That was like this. Yeah, there was like there was rice, and then there was roti.
That's the Indian band.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like it's a bit fried.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. And I think that was it.
That
We had
was
like
it.
apples.
Spinach too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know many Queensland kids grow up eating spinach. That's what you say to mum, no. Your diet is much better than ours. Was there any food in Australia that you just found was good or bad? Wheat bix?
Tim Tams.
They're popular. Well, thank you so much. And one other question I have is, have you maintained your friendships from the time when you were... Yeah. And do you think you would come back to Queensland now? Yeah. Sorry? Maybe you want to go back, yeah. That's awesome. And thank you so much. Can I get a photo with all of you, if that's possible? Is it easier if I stand here and you just stand up? That might be easier. Okay.
Movement here.
Oh, yeah. Oh! That's what I normally do. Other humans.
1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm the only one doing that. Yes.
Everyone. Hello. Namaste. My name is Shannon Willoughby. I'm the Executive Director of Study Queensland, and I'm part of a trade delegation that is visiting India this week to announce and deliver on a couple of things. Before I begin to get into some detail on that, I would like to just introduce our trade delegation that is here with us today. We are very fortunate enough to have our Minister for Tourism, Industry Development, Innovation and the Commonwealth Games, and our Ministerial Champion for International Education, the Honourable Kate Jones, with us on our delegation. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Damien Walker, the Director General for the Minister's Department, Matt Judson, the Chief of Staff to the Minister, and Yasman Hamer from the Trade Investment Queensland Office, and of course our Trade Commissioner, Gitesh, who is here as well. I would now like to introduce Monica, the Principal of Shiv Nadar, to welcome you all.
Delighted to host the Honourable Minister Kate Jones, Minister for Innovation and Tourism, Industry Development, Minister for the Commonwealth Games, and Ministerial Champion for International Education and Training for the State of Queensland, Australia. We welcome you, ma'am. It's indeed a pleasure to also welcome a high-powered team from the Government of Queensland. Mr. Matthew, the Chief of Staff, Mr. Damien Walker, Director General, Department of Innovation and Tourism, Industrial Development and the Commonwealth Games, Ms. Shannon Willoughby, Executive Director for the Study Queensland, Trade and Investment Queensland, and Mrs. Pardon me if I mispronounce it, Yasmane Hanel, Program Manager, Trade and Investment Queensland. Their visit to our school is most special during this time, as Shiv Nadar School is part of the India-Australia Bridge Program, and a group of students and staff from Kirwan School in Townsville are currently here this week at our school as a part of the exchange. Our students and staff had visited the school in March, and we plan to continue this as an annual affair, and our next team is also getting ready to go there in March. This interaction has already started on common grounds of mutual friendship and partnership. School education is undergoing a paradigm shift, and not just in India but all over the world. The 21st century learners have mandated for us to change the way we teach and learn. In fact, the shift has changed our role from teaching to support learning, and then we keep hearing that the teachers today are not actually sages on the stage, but they're guides by the side. And in our quest for doing this kind of experiential learning, I think Queensland and India would try to really take this forward. As new educators, we have all interacted at many forums on how the educational ecosystem in India, curriculum, pedagogy, teaching aids, assessment and reward mechanism, all have to undergo a major shift as we prepare our students for a very changing global world. Importantly, we also need to prepare our students to a fast-changing international university education system so that they're able to cope with the new learning and teaching styles. A style that is changing from competitive to collaborative, from theory to practical applications and problem solving. At each interaction, we absorb new ideas and learn to incorporate positive changes in our own education systems. Today is another effort in that direction, and at this juncture, we'd like to acknowledge Connect for bringing this to us. We have the opportunity to hear from a government administrator from a progressive international destination who's here to share with us some of the efforts and initiatives that the state of Queensland is taking across schools and university education. The Honourable Kate Jones, MP is the Minister for Innovation and Tourism, Industrial Development, and I don't know how she can wear so many hats altogether. Following the 2017 state election, Kate was sworn in as the Minister for New Department and also given responsibility for international education and digital economy. She served as the Minister for Education, Minister for Tourism and major events since 16 February 2015 and was announced as the Minister for the Commonwealth Games on 10 February. She attended the Kelvin Grove State High School, completed a Bachelor's of Arts in Politics and Journalism at the Queensland University of Technology and a Master's in Environmental Law at Australian National University. We are delighted to welcome the Honourable Minister and her whole team, as well as our friends across Delhi and from Kirwan and across the Shiv Nadar schools. I would like to ask the Minister to just come forward for us to felicitate her.
Welcome. Can I, of course, acknowledge the principal of the school, Monica Saga, Also Mrs. Lena Aparajit, the Executive Director of the Shiv Nadar Schools, of course our Trade Commissioner Gitesh Agarwal, as well as Shannon and my Director General and all of the delegates that are here today. Can I say how privileged I felt being here today and meeting your students here today, as well as students from Kerwin State High School, which of course is in my home state of Queensland. And you just joked before, Monica, about having so many hats on, but I'm also a working mother, like many women in India, and was for the last 3 years in Queensland our Education Minister. So that was administering our education system in our state that has more than 2,000 schools and was around 30% of our state budget. So compared to that, I'm very much enjoying this job. I only mention that because one thing you learn when you visit 5 to 6 schools every week as your job is from the moment you walk into a school, you can feel it. You can feel the energy of the students, you can hear it in their voices, you can feel it from the teaching staff and the educators that are working there about whether the school is getting it right. And can I say to all of you that you certainly have that sense when you entered your school here today. So you should be very proud of everything that you've been able to achieve. And I also find that the people that tell you the most honestly are the students. And can I say, in all of my little side conversations walking around your school, they were saying that what they love most about the Shiv Nadar School education is the focus on the whole human, the whole being, about understanding that in the new economy, which our young people understand intrinsically, that they need to be holistic in their approach. Yes, academic education will always be important and will continue to be important, and parents recognise this. But we also know that some of the top executives globally are saying very clearly that they want young people with soft skills and a holistic understanding that they can work in teams and across disciplines to develop solutions to some of the toughest problems that we face together globally. And that's why I'm so enthusiastic about this partnership, because certainly in Queensland we've been going under a bit of a reform, as you are here in India, about what value we place on parts of our education system. And certainly from our perspective, which I thought for the educators in the room you'd be interested in, is a number of reforms that we've been doing, which I think fit very neatly with the work that you're doing here at Shiv Nadar. One is we made a decision as a state in Queensland compared to the rest of Australia to fast-track coding and robotics in our schools, that curriculum. And we now, from my 4-year-olds, I've got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, from 4 years old, children are now getting exposed in our curriculum to the coding and robotics. In addition to that, in the last 3 years, we have just undertaken the most significant rewrite of our senior curriculum ever undertaken in 40 years. So as you go into this as a minister and as a mother, knowing that it'll probably be another 20 or 30 years before we have a total rewrite of a curriculum, you understand the weight of that on your shoulders. And it means for us it was about ensuring that we provided not only the best pedagogy but also significant focus on the reskilling and retraining of our teachers as well, to ensure that they have the skills that they need to be providing our young people with the modern curriculum. So this meant of this, 70 odd subjects that we offer in senior schooling in Queensland that we went through with teachers sitting at the table, really rethinking and rewriting every single aspect of that education. So it is a very good time to come on a partnership with us, because we've actually got a really new modern curriculum that really puts the child, and very much like a school here, challenging the child to take ownership of their own education journey and being able to demonstrate that through their academic achievement. And also, we've worked really hard to create a global schools program. This is where we said, once the government was re-elected, that we wanted to make sure that we were thinking globally in all that we do. So that's why we are so focused on creating the opportunities, just like the students here have with Kerwin, where we can break down barriers and also give them an opportunity to study overseas and to study alongside students from all around the world, giving them a real taste of the global workplace that they'll be entering into once they finish school and higher learning. Which is a very good way to say that today we're very proud to announce that as part of our international education strategy, our Global Achievers program. This is a program which very much focuses on the opportunity that we have with India, and through this what we'll be doing is selecting around 12 champions, that is Indian students that are studying in Queensland right now in undergraduate studies in our universities, to have the opportunity to visit schools and universities in India to share their experiences of studying in Queensland. And we hope that through this Global Achievers program, which Shannon will talk a little bit more deeply about, that we can really open up the doors of possibility between India and Queensland, which is very much our desire and wish. To this end, I'm going to be outshone this afternoon by one of a student here, an undergraduate student at UQ, Ronak, who's going to be speaking about his experiences of studying in Queensland. So in conclusion, I just want to say how grateful I am to be welcomed so warmly to your school. Congratulations to all the leadership. I wholly embrace, as does all the academic research around the world, about your approach to education and the opportunity that you are providing for the very privileged students that have the opportunity to have this excellent education. And we hope that the partnership with Kerwin is just the beginning, and that we can continue to develop this going forward with other schools across Queensland, if you would like as well. So thank you so much. It's a great privilege to be here, and I look forward to hearing from our wonderful student next. Thank you.
Queensland and the Queensland State Government is today pleased to announce our Global Achievers program, which will really be some great news for many of the educators in the schools in the room. I believe there's around 6 schools in the room, which we'd like to see our achievers, our ambassadors in the Global Achievers program visit. The Global Achievers program is funded in partnership with Study Queensland and Queensland universities. And as the Minister mentioned, it will see a number of students fly back to India and visit many of the high schools in India, particularly in Delhi and Bangalore, and see these students share their Queensland experiences and what it's like to be a student studying in Queensland. India is our second largest source market for international students in Queensland. And certainly the state government's committed to increasing the number of Indian students we welcome to our institutions, particularly in the undergraduate and postgraduate areas. And as the Minister also mentioned, the partnerships between schools is a great way to I guess taste test what it's like to be a student in Queensland, and vice versa, to increase those collaborations at a university level. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first Global Achievers Program Ambassador. Ronak is studying at UQ. He's studying software engineering, if that's correct. He's just now going to give a brief introduction and overview of what it's like being a student studying in Queensland. So please, welcome.
As you all might know, I'm Ronak, and a little bit about myself. So, I have been inherently curious about a gazillion things which inhabit this beautiful world of ours, but there are 2 things which I'm the most intrigued by: people and computers. Computers have led me to study software engineering at the University of Queensland, and people, well, this role of a brand ambassador for studying Queensland and being a part of the Global Achievers program. A little bit about my life in Australia. So ever since I've moved to Brisbane, which is a very vibrant and young city full of culture and heritage, I have been more active and engaged than ever. So I have got some wonderful opportunities. So I got the opportunity to intern at the Brisbane City Council as a software engineering intern, where I got my first experience of what the Aussie work culture is like. and it's very relaxed and whilst being corporate and professional at the same time. And I was a student entrepreneur at UQ Idea Hub, which is University of Queensland's own startup pre-incubator and think tank. So I got the opportunity to go to Shanghai for a 1-month internship at one of China's top leading startups called China Accelerator. And other than that, I've also been involved in and around university. Apart from academics, I have been working as a teaching assistant at CodeCamp, which, as Minister Kate Jones was talking about, it's a social impact business which teaches young children to code. And I've written a lot about how coding is such an important skill for children. And other than that, I feel I'm very passionate about building and nurturing relationships with people, as I've met a lot of people from a lot of walks in life in Australia. So that is what I want to continue doing through this position, and I'm extremely honoured and prestiged. Thank you very much.
Ronak, and I do also need to acknowledge Ronak was a student of the Alcorn High School, and we have the principal Ashok here today as well. So very pleased to thank you, and thank you for producing such a great graduate who has now been welcomed into Queensland and is making such an excellent contribution to not only his university but the broader Queensland economy and community. That's it for the formal proceedings for today, but obviously we've got a panel up on the couch here who would welcome any questions that you may have, particularly with the Minister around the education sector in Queensland and how we can offer you some shared learnings to you all in the room. So thank you very much.
Can you elaborate for us a bit more on how you are developing global citizens in your school?
That we're trying to inculcate within the curriculum, which is as the students are, we celebrate things like Children's Day on 14th November across India, and kindergarten children, they invite students from an underprivileged school to come and spend the day with them. So I would say that they are on their way to becoming global citizens right from K to 12. And across all grades, we also celebrate something called Joy of Sharing in July, which is our Founders Week. And therein the children, they learn a skill, they do a fundraiser to help people who are not as privileged as them. We've also started with the Bridge program. We've got our students going to Queensland and interacting with students there. We also have a lot of international trips at present we are a very young school, so we've had trips for children to places like Europe on an art space tour where they do workshops there in Milan or Amsterdam or Paris with Culture Fox. Then we've got another tour where they go for the NASA trip to the US. We haven't gone for a trip to Australia, and that should be in the offing, being a young school. And we have lesser students in the senior school and more students in the primary. And most of these international trips happen only from grade 7, 6 or 7 onwards. So we are taking baby steps towards making them global citizens, not just exposing them to the culture of all the countries that they can visit, but also in setting up, this is the first of an exchange that we want to carry forward. And we also, our curriculum talks about skills of the 21st century. So if they're doing, if you're focusing on skills of collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking, then I think we are on our way to becoming, to making our children global citizens.
Honourable Minister, I have a small question. Apart from, you told me about robotics and other things you are implementing, is your department also focusing on VR, AI, or other technologies which are the future of education?
Yes, but also as a government, I'm the Minister for Innovation, as you heard. So we have a program at a state-based level, so our state governments, because we run schooling at a state level as opposed to a national level in Australia. We're actually looking at setting up an AI hub in Brisbane, in Queensland, as for national leading AI hub for Australia in Brisbane at the moment, and we actually want to be the AI leaders in Australia in Brisbane, and we're doing that with QUT, for example, and UQ, our two main universities there, and we will be doing AI scholarships with young students as well to get exposure. So building those, one of the other things that we're doing for the first time, and the first school will come online in 2020, and I was laughing because we've actually gone through a whole community consultation on building our first vertical schools, because in Australia, so much land, not so many people, very big schools that are very flat. So we're moving towards modern schools that look like schools in the rest of the world that are vertical. I mention that because we'll be opening our very first two university high schools in the capital city. So one with Queensland University of Technology, which will have a focus on STEM, and also with University of Queensland as well. So that will give another new offering of education. And in my discussions with the Vice Chancellor of QUT, they want to have an AI focus in that school as well. So that'll be a new thing that's coming online in 2020. And you're right about that's where the jobs are. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, there will be artificial intelligence, there will be machine learning and many things. If a human being is at the center of it and ethical values, there will be many ethical dilemmas. So I'm sure your schools are doing it. So how are you resolving that? Because the human being has to, and also there's going to be machine-human interface. And how, I know we don't have all the answers, but I'm sure in schools you're doing something to prepare them for tomorrow, which we are also not quite aware of.
I think most upon that, but a lot of the work that we've focused on is on being resilient as humans too, and that resilience piece, we put a lot of work into providing programs in schools because the rate of change is going to happen so rapidly compared to when we were at school and entering the workforce for the first time, that there's been a lot of focus across our independent Catholic and state schools collaboratively to provide the time and space in the new curriculum so we can actually do some of those other what would be non-traditional things that were taught at school around resilience, around health and well-being and mental well-being. We now have yoga in Queensland schools, which certainly didn't happen when I was at school. They just made you run around the oval until you got sweaty and red. So there is a broader piece happening, not particular to your question of that interface of ethics between humans and robots and AI and big data, which is a challenge globally, but certainly I think that that's just a matter of time before we're all going to be having to proactively have those conversations with our young people as part of the education system.
Thank you so much.
So, about coding and about AI, I just wanted to know a little more about what do you think is the near future or the future of liberal arts education in Australia?
And interestingly, we probably caught the criticism that we had too much focus of that probably in our education, but I think it's going through a bit of a renaissance globally too, that you're going to need a mix of skills and a mix of learning, and sort of a broad knowledge across a number of areas. So I don't think that would diminish. I think that for us it's about ensuring that we're providing excellence across that broad breadth of knowledge to as many students as we can. So similar to the focus of your school here. And I was saying that Queensland, to the students, Queensland is the only state education system in Australia that provides every student gets an opportunity to learn an instrument from school. So my son's 8, so he's just started playing trumpet at school. We're very grateful. Dad and I did the practice at home. But you know, it's such a, we understand. So the school, you know, every child is in the school band. Like you have that opportunity as a student. That is part of your identity, part of how you get points for your house, all those kind of things. So it's embedded. It's something that is unique to our state and something that we are very proud of and will continue to invest in.
Yeah, it's more around, there's so much that one knows about Queensland around the innovation and the quality of education, but the other big buzzword being entrepreneurship as well, which is about creating your own businesses and, you know, generating jobs, then being employed in one. It'd be great to know how your institutions are actually supporting that mandate as well.
Well, we were the first state in Australia to have a chief entrepreneur. So we have someone from the private sector that is a chief entrepreneur for our state, and they. So at the moment we have one of the world leaders in blockchain technology, Leanne Kemp. She's actually on the United Nations body now for blockchain technology. So she's an amazing person and one of those brains that you just meet and you walk away thinking, I'm so glad she's on our side. In regards to entrepreneurship, when we did the rewrite of the curriculum, there was a big focus on what was traditionally business studies and those kind of things towards entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills. And apart from coding camps, there are also now an increasing plethora out there of entrepreneurial camps for students as well. So entrepreneurship was actually built into our junior curriculum too, from PE to 10, and is something that is touched on in, we weave into the rest of the curriculum. So in regards to mathematics, there's a focus on entrepreneurship in that as well. So it's, you know, early stages of most education systems, but we've deliberately made the focus, particularly in senior studies, to build that in.
Probably just to add a bit to that as well. Under the International Education and Training Strategy funded by the state government, we also have 2 innovators in residence that work alongside Study Queensland and will be working very closely with our innovation department in looking at building more opportunities, not just for international students, but students broadly around entrepreneurship. And some of those opportunities have already been funded through our partnership fund, including we've got a program called Gen In, which works with one of our local public schools in Brisbane and a number of innovators that basically does hackathons and innovation opportunities to build, I guess, that entrepreneurial spirit around that. And one of the focuses under the strategy that the International Education and Training Strategy is around employability and connecting not only students with existing businesses and the workforce, but also how do they build their own opportunities. So, you know, teaching students to start a startup, and that's where those whole soft skills, world skills, cross-cultural skills are very important, and that's one thing that the Queensland government certainly focused on.
And Shannon just made me think of something. I think also, you know, young people are so aware of that opportunity in their future that a study I read recently said like 50% of school leavers in Queensland want to be their business owner. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to be a founder. So I think we've achieved that desire. I think now it's how do we how do the institutions, as you say, how do we as big business, government actually provide them with that opportunity and flexibility of working. So I'm reviewing our innovation strategy at the moment, and what was, you know, developed 4 years ago, which was all about how do we create a startup ecosystem, how do we provide that. Now I'm actually talking to big business, all our major business owners, which predominantly in Queensland is we do a lot of export. to India. I think it was 60% of the export market in Australia is actually from Queensland to India, so you're one of our largest trading partners, is like how do I actually get big business that have those strong institutions and that shareholder system that's often risk adverse to actually change the way that they do business to provide entrepreneurship in their workplace. That's a bigger challenge, but one I'm super excited about because I think that's one where, just like India is right now, the journey over the next 5 years is going to be huge. And you know, my prediction would be that the trade relationship between Australia and India will just grow significantly over the next 5 years, and I truly hope that that is the case because I think there's huge potential for both of us.
So we have studying Australia. How can we start building a connect with universities from high school itself? For high school students who aspire to go to Australia and pursue higher studies, how can we start building a connect with the universities from high school itself?
Study Queensland website would be a starting point, but I think through your schools, and I think through the partnership that your school already has with Queensland there as well. Certainly the Global Achievers program is a program that we're excited about, taking Queensland students to India to connect with high school students to start building those foundations of connections there. I think many of our institutions also have partnerships with high schools as well to build off those existing or to build new relationships in that space. Carla, did you have? Sorry, I'm going to add to that.
And that's really important, is if from our end the effort is to working with state offices is constantly bringing faculty across here. What we want you to do is knowing the university, but also know how you get taught there, what's the faculty like, what's their strengths and what's the teaching style. So things that we will work very closely with, not just the Shiv Nadar School, but every school here, is how do we get quality faculty from universities from there to come and do workshops with you, guest lectures with you, the study tours. We also invested a lot in counsellor development. Every year we fly a bit of counsellors out to Queensland, and Queensland's been great that every year we've hosted these counsellors, show them around what the universities actually have, because sometimes your first connect becomes your counsellor. So whether that's getting universities here for one-on-one information, whether it's faculty lectures and workshops, making sure you've got enough content, as well as have the connections in terms of who is the contact to go to more directly. And what's important in this day and age is to ensure that level of direct connections you develop with the university, and that is the sincere effort that we connect as a whole. That's quite strange that Mr. Bias and Connect, because that's what we do with schools like Alcon, where we've done workshops after workshops for not just their students, but students across the region, is to have that level of connections directly with the universities, and it's great that entities like Study Queensland are actually supporting that as well. So that will continue. There's quite a bit to do. Yes, clearly in terms of how, but I'm sure that a lot has happened in the last 2 years, and we'll see a lot more that will happen for sure.
Thank you. I have a question for schools in the US, UK. They have summer programs, summer school. And when you have summer school, kids go there and they get hooked onto summer school. So again, adding to Ipsa's question, adding to what Ipsa said. Ipsa said, I think that do you have programs like that which would be very attractive for our students, especially grade 11 and 12. We're so high on STEAM. We're also high on STEAM. We have a person here sitting who's heading our STEAM program here, and I'm sure all the schools in India are liberal arts. So, just my question to you.
But every year, I think Queensland's one of the most popular states in Australia for what we call study tours. So, and it is essentially in the July-August months where students from as young as year 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 come out to Queensland and have a school experience not dissimilar to the one you've got with Townsville at the moment, where students are embedded into the school for 2 weeks during their school holidays. It is more of a school-to-school relationship at this stage, not an opt-in program. Yeah, and the universities do it as well. So it's either run through the schools directly, or the universities and an agent that brings them out.
I think what would really be attractive, again, and placing this before you, is that if you have a program at the university for grade 11 and 12, which is for about 2-week program in different diverse areas. Students will be interested, engaged, and once they go there and interact with the faculty, I'm sure they will be very happy. The school is a different connect, but right now I'm talking about the universities.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge opportunity to do that, and I just don't think we've done it on a large scale. I think, as Shannon said, institution by institution does provide on a small scale, but I think a broader point about, and this is what, events like today are all about, is you get ideas, which is you're right. Of course it makes sense if you're a student or a parent to say, why don't you come to University of Queensland for a couple of weeks during the holidays, get a taste and a feel of the environment, know that you can go back and tell your parents, I was safe, I was welcomed, I felt very happy and the quality was good. So I think it's definitely something we can have a look at, and certainly, we as a government have provided, have established Study Queensland and funding, because we actually want to be doing new models to attract more students to come and have that cultural exchange with us and study. So, great idea. See if I can make it happen.
So I just want to add to that for the minister. And we do have a number of those programs already. So if you want to connect, I'll find out a little bit more about that. We can have a chat after. But we have a lot of programs that do that already. We come and students are homestayed with our families in Queensland, and programs are worked out together. It's a combination of going to school, being immersed in the school environment, and we work very closely with universities so that the students also have a program at the university as well. And we have those programs for teachers, or we have them for principals, if anybody would like more information.
Supplement that slightly. I think the biggest challenge when we started looking at the summer programs clearly was the whole summer interpretation, because it's a US summer but it's the winter in Australia, because we're talking the other hemisphere. So for us the most difficult point was to find a period. But for your information, the University of Queensland this year has launched a summer program. Their first intake was this June, so we will make sure that the Queensland Rep kind of sends that information out. What we're also working with entities like Townsville and Study Gold Coast is more subject-specific. So Gold Coast being the centre for filmmaking, looking at more subject-specific film programs that for students of media and arts. Townsville, for instance, is a region which is does a lot of work in ecology, biodiversity. University like James Cook University to look at something like that. We've got QUT, which is pretty advanced in creative arts. So I think our work largely with universities in Queensland is looking at subject-specific programs. The whole challenge is going to be the summer component, and that's within the universities. The first university that's gone with the formal summer program is the University of Queensland, and I'll ensure that information comes to you, and I'm sure there's going to be more of this, because it has been considered as a very important way for students to get a taste of what really happens in the university, and I'm really glad you brought that up as well. It is your, so yes, to put it technically, it's Australian winter in a way. So the challenge is when you get your break period. So we've kind of allowed it to be May, June, July, which is why the subject-specific ones work, because Australia kind of starts its semester in July, it's the biggest challenge to a concept like that, because you're so used to the American calendar, is how do we change that? So our biggest challenge when we actually drafted this 2 years ago was to look at that timing. And I think to some extent now we have managed to catch a window that would work for Australia, and hence we've put it out to universities to custom make some programs. And I think once we get that out, we'll have the opportunity. And we honestly think, instead of just being an entrepreneurship or generic leadership programs, if we make it of an area of strength, which the university does extremely well, the students get more out of it. Taste of Australia, and there is more compelling reason to look at that university than having to compare it with a generic program that they would get in the US. So.
And certainly I was going to add to that two things. One is we on power at Cardigan, and particularly in Townsville, it's still quite warm. But I think you raised a really good point, which is, Queensland has some of the best universities in Australia, but then we have some that aren't as high globally ranked on the global ranking score, but in this specialist area, they are world's best. So for me, as the new minister who's a champion of international education, it is about providing that opportunity to do world's best learning. So for example, we talked about James Cook University, that is one of the leaders in the world in marine science, because it's literally on the doorstep of the Great Barrier Reef. So So we have all of that infrastructure, all of that opportunity for students to do a real life experience of protecting the Great Barrier Reef, and that's very appealing to a 16 or a 17-year-old to have that on their resume, that they came to Townsville, studied at the Marine Institute there, and actually helped do their little bit to protect the Great Barrier Reef into the future. And so that's probably the next step for us. And with Shannon being appointed as the new CEO, is really understanding where we can provide a unique opportunity that talks to a global experience that you couldn't get anywhere else in the world, even if it's not, Stanford or Harvard.
Good afternoon. I basically have two questions, and I'm going back to school away from the university. The first one is the role of the teacher is changing. So how do you support the new role in your space? The changing role of teachers in today's time.
Well, we have a very strong teachers union. We provide a lot of support for our teachers in a number of ways. Predominantly, one is and I know that this probably wasn't the answer that you're looking for, but I think it's important as well, is also we've really increased the salary because we want to keep teachers in the classroom. Because up until now, the pathway was always to get you move out of the classroom into administrative roles. Often you want to keep the most experienced and talented teachers in the classroom doing what they love, which is teaching. So one is trying to provide better working conditions, so it actually makes it a more attractive job to stay in long term. Secondly is providing more flexibility in the role for experienced teachers, so they don't have to do a full teaching load. They have more time to be providing more time to have input into the way that we implement the curriculum, so a bit more autonomy on the way that they do their teaching, so there is more understanding and recognition of their skill set, which is something that as Education Minister I was very passionate about. We've also funded additional support services as well. We recognise the complexity and the demands that are changing, from both digital capability to the fact that people feel that they can contact you on midnight on Sunday about their child's marks. So we are also providing more counselling and support services in a very direct way. Finally, the other thing that we are doing is recognising that, like in any profession, people that are passionate about something do better in that area. So for example, one of the things that was holding us back in STEM education in the primary school setting was the fact that a lot of teachers didn't necessarily do science or maths in university, or even necessarily in year 11 and 12. That's changed now in Australia. You must have those skills to become a teacher. So we provided for free courses through Queensland University of Technology and UQ to upskill our teachers. So we provided the professional development where they could choose to go back and study maths and science through short courses, so they could actually have the skills they needed to teach the coding and robotics, things that they hadn't been exposed to ever in their professional life or their personal life. So it's been, and I say that because we do have a very strong teachers union in Queensland, which meant that we make decisions collaboratively about their professional development and about their workplace. So I think that's really important to have. And when we rewrote the curriculum, I said from day one, when I got told I had to rewrite the curriculum with no money, but I found the money first. And then secondly, I said, I want teachers to be at the centre, because if teachers don't believe in it, it's not going to work. So teachers did the drafting of the curriculum, they wrote the curriculum, they wrote the assessment process, so they were heavily embedded, because they know better than any of us. They're the experts, and we listen to them, and that's why I'm very confident that our new curriculum will really provide the best education for our students.
Thank you. And my second question, ma'am, is how do you help students discover their passion, and how early do you begin that?
I think it's a very, like if I speak generally, I think it's a very Australian sense of being. We every child gets, we don't get told you have to be the best. We get told you've got to find what you love, and that's just embedded in who we are. I think I can say it like that. It's like every child is, and as I said, from very young, we've got every child has to do sport, every child has to do music, every child has to, it's just part of your experimental journey to discover what you are good at. So certainly, you know, our focus in our education system is about lifting standards constantly and expectation, but certainly the view of a whole approach back to what we're saying about working life in Australia, because we're very professional standards, but hey, we take, you know, we like everyone to be comfortable and relaxed while they're doing it. So for us, I think it's very much, from day one, it's what are you good at? What are you passionate about? Because we know that if you're passionate about it, you'll do well in it. So I don't think it's a challenge, I think it's fair to say. You're consumers of the system, you too?
Look, we have to wrap it up now. The Minister has some other engagements to attend, but I guess on behalf of the Minister and the delegation here today, the Trade Commissioner and of course Shiv Nadar for hosting us here today, we'd like to thank you all for coming. I know there's a number of schools, educators and teachers in the room that have come to hear this today. I hope it's been of use to you. And yeah, we look forward to building collaborations with you, whether it's at school level or university level, and please feel free to come and contact me at any point. And yeah, thank you for coming.
I think you got a lot of medals. Yeah. It's very good.
She's wearing the hat.